Welcome to Chronicles of Old Singapore. This is Dr. Loh KS, and I speak to people about their memories of old Singapore before it became a global city. Today, we are going to deep dive into the Naval Base and Sembawang once again. And this time, we don't have just one, two, but three guests for the first time on Chronicles of Old Singapore. Previously, we have done a few interviews already. Just a couple of weeks ago, interviewed Wan Chan Pew himself, who was at Kowloon Road inside the Naval Base. You haven't seen the podcast, please see it. He has a lot of great memories there. And today we are going to kind of shift to another part of the Naval Base. And I suspect we'll be doing a lot of podcasts on the Naval Base and Old Sembawang in the days to come. I want to welcome all the three guests that are here today. They are all very excited to talk about where they grew up and all the crazy things that they did when they were kids. And just to briefly say the purpose of this podcast, there are three things I think we are interested in to go through while they are speaking about their memories. One is their memories of living inside the Naval Base, specifically this area called the Naval Base Hospital and the quarters near the hospital. Second is to talk about the changes that have taken place to the Naval Base and to the Sembawang area since the 1970s. And finally, and I think this is something that I'm interested in, and also the three guests they are interested in as well. That's how the podcast came about, actually, is the question of heritage and the memory, and how do we document and celebrate those memories of those fantastic days in the Naval Base. So welcome, the three of you, Mary, Vijay, and Alfred. How are you this morning?
Hello, hi.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
You will get better, Mary. Perhaps you can. I think you are very much the kind of default leader, right, of the group, in many ways. Mary, could you kind of briefly introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Mary Elama Abishagam. I was from number 11 hospital quarters. That was my father's house. And I am 68 years old, born in 1956. Grew up in Naval Base Hospital quarters until the British pulled out. So I was there from 1956 to 1971. We went to the Naval Base Secondary School. We had a lot of privileges in the Naval Base: housing, water, electricity, playground, and association with all the British doctors and the British people who will come in and out of the hospital. And of course, the hospital was for Asian men, and we also got accustomed to the hospitals and the grounds.
Okay, hi, good morning. My throat is a little bit rough. I hope I don't cough through it. My name is Vijayan Nambiar. I was born in 1958. I'm 65. I'll be turning 66 this year. I grew up in the first 10, 12 years of my life in the Naval Base Hospital quarters. I lived at number 4. Mary lived on number 11. So it's a little bit away from her, but right across from Alfred. Alfred was on the other side. My first 10 years, I was in Canberra School, but I went to RI in my secondary school years. We love the place because there's a huge area to play. There's a playground. We were right next to the hospital, so we got medical treatment and so on. So yeah, Mary is called Archie in our group. So she was like the leader organizing a lot of games and things like that too. So I was probably one of the younger people there. And I gained from a lot of fun that we did there. So hope we can share some of those fun things that we did.
Yeah, that's right. More to come, Vijay. Alfred, finally, looking very cool and strangely flickering.
It's only looking Nothing, but I do not know how I'm but feeling very differently. I am the oldest member in the group. I was born in 1948 in, I think, Naval Base Hospital quarters. I went to Canberra Primary School and then studied in Naval Base Secondary School. I grew among a rambunctious number of children. There were only 11 units in the Naval Base Hospital quarters, but there were about 55 children there. So that equates to about 5 to a family. And we had a wonderful time. Unlike today, just 3 families can play a 5-a-side tournament. And the place that we grew, just to give you a sense of the place, although there were only 11 families, we had like 2 soccer pitches, 2 badminton courts, 3 swings, a huge slide that was about 20 feet high. So a lot of us spent our time outdoors, quite different from today, where children are more confined indoors. The other thing that I do, Kasing, thanks to Pew, I help him out in his Facebook page. And in 2020, during the COVID, we launched a blog site, and we called it Block to Blog, BLOCK to blog, because many of us stayed in blocks. Apart from a few people, I think the firemen's quarters and people living in the hospital quarters. That's it. That's a brief rundown. Oh, unless you want me to continue about the hospital.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, as Viju and Mary said, inevitably, we were all influenced by the hospital. Like, for example, just give you a minor thing. During Christmas time, the hospital used to be very, very gaily decorated. Traditionally, there was a Christmas tree, which was put up by the Caucasians who were living in Naval Base. They would come there and decorate a Christmas tree with lots of cotton to signify snow. The cotton, as you know, came from Naval Base Hospital. So there was lots of cotton there. There was more cotton than all the other decorations. So what we used to do as kids, go there and steal those decorations. I don't know, I may be saying things that I shouldn't be saying now. So that was very one of the highlights in the hospital quarters. The other highlight, or rather low point, I don't know how to put it, I think it's the mortuary. The mortuary also was very central to all of us. When we played catching, some of us would go and hide behind the mortuary. And you can bet nobody will come looking for you. Then later on, we set our own thing. Nobody could go and hide behind the mortuary, things like that. We have our own rules. That was one thing about generally naval based. When it came to football, when it came to playing catching, playing five stones, we were all very, very creative. We set our own rules. And then when it came to even choosing sides, we set our own rules. So I think that's about it. But it was a wonderful time growing up at the Naval Base Hospital quarters, generally in Naval Base. And I call it a child's paradise growing up in Naval Base. I think that's the best way to describe it. Thank you, Kasik.
So can I ask, Mary and Vijay are in your 60s, Alfred 70s. So there is a slight age gap between the three of you. So obviously, I think there is a connection here besides living in the hospital quarters, which is perhaps your parents knew each other. Is that right?
Yes.
Could you talk about what your parents did, their jobs, or your father, and how they kind of connected, the kids together?
Okay, shall I start?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. My father was from Kerala. He came to Malaya in 1932, 33, early 30s. And then he returned back to India during the war. And then he returned back to the hospital quarters in 1950s, 52 or something like that. I think in 1955, he brought the whole family over. My father worked in the dispensary, giving out medicines and so on. So I was born very much after that in 1958. So my memories are a bit later stages in the early 60s, and that I was more aware of my surroundings and things like that. I think Mary, who's known as my father, I remember also gave nicknames to all of us, house names. I think Bunny was called Alfred was called Bunny Boy. And so Archie, I don't know how she got that name, Archie.
Archie,
Mary,
as in what? The cartoon character.
No, I think during those days, the endearment way of calling.
How do you spell that?
You can either spell it
There is no
ARCHEE,
spelling.
or you can go now. You have Prince Archie, right? ARCHIE.
Okay.
So whichever way. But my father used to call, all of us had nicknames in the house. This was given by my father.
And
So-
Vijay, what was yours?
I was called Viju. That was my
Viju.
house name. So,
Okay.
so that's why Alfred calls me Viju, or Bunny Boy calls me Viju. Bunny, I think Bunny, or my father was called him that because he had his teeth were a bit large in front, so it looked like Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny.
So I think that's why he called him Bunny Boy. Yeah? So that could be the reason. I think Alfred knows better. Alfred knew my parents much better than the rest of us. He was very close with my mom too. In fact, he actually was present at my mom's funeral, and he also spoke there about how much he got to know my mom. So he probably knew my mom a lot more. Yeah, so we were very close as a family. Everyone was, we cook Deepavali stuff. We would join and share. And then the Christmas time, the Christians will be cooking nice stuff and come and share with us. There's so much of camaraderie there, closeness. Everybody knew everybody else, all the families as well. So that's why we still stuck together for so many years. We've kept in touch all these years. So it was that real closeness. Everybody knew everyone in the family, and that was, to me, was something very profound and lasting for us.
So my dad was, they called him special grade hospital assistant, and he was like in charge of the wards. So I think they have a 3 men's ward. So these were Asian men. So because he worked there, and we know Alfred's father, Viju's father, and a few more. All the 11 houses had all the men working in the hospital. They were all hospital assistants of different grades. So he was very strict. My dad was very strict. I remember all the attendants would come and complain to my mother, "Your husband scold me like this and like that." So, of course, as his children, we also felt the strictness. Very strict with education and how you dress up. Even if you want to go for a walk from the hospital quarters to Jalan Kadai, you got to wear socks and shoes. I suppose this is the colonial stuff that he followed. And he was quite well respected in the sense that if I'm going for a walk with him, we will never reach that place in time, or because along the way, a lot of people will stop him and talk to him. And he could speak quite a number of languages: Tamil, a bit of Malayalam, Malay, English. So you got people talking to him, and I'm the daughter listening to all this conversation. And many years later, after the British left, when I worked in town, Somerset area, for the PUB, I would meet his friends who come around and look at me and say, "Oh, you're Mr. Walter's daughter." So being the elders, I suppose I was around my father lots of time. And so he was in charge and very strict, and the doctors respected him. Unfortunately, he came down with pneumonia, and the doctors wanted to give him like a trip to Cameron Highlands to recover, but he was a very conscientious worker. He said, no, I will work. And in the end, the pneumonia became double pneumonia and he couldn't handle it. And finally, he died of heart failure. So that was my dad and his story. Now, coming to the mortuary, my house is the last house on the list, number 11, and it was facing the mortuary. So we always, in the evenings, my mother will ask me to close up the house. So I had to put my hand outside the window to pull the window shut, terrified of the mortuary. Now, all of us knew that if there's a light on in the mortuary, that means somebody has passed on. So one day, that time my father is still alive, and I must be about 10 or 9 or 10. And he decided to bring me along to the mortuary. Because when somebody dies, my father will go and see who died and whatnot. This after office hours is no issue for him. So I went along with him, but I stayed outside. I remember him going in and having a look and examining the person and talking to whoever was there. So we are quite accustomed to a lot of these hospital things when we were growing up. And then now the children in the hospital, we got along very well, whatever race or religion. We used to play a lot of games. Not only did we play the games that Alfred mentioned, we also played girls and boys. All the girls were tomboys anyway. We played bola hantam, climbing the trees, catching on trees. We would play kite flying. Every season or every school holiday, we had a different game that we will get ourselves involved. Badminton, even baseball. We learned how to play baseball. Somebody will come along and teach us, and we all will play. But our favorite game was rounders and badminton. We even played table tennis. Somebody brought table tennis.
No, we built a table tennis table. That was fantastic, actually.
So we can play a lot of games, in those days. Our time was spent studying. We all had the same timetable. If you're afternoon school, you will do morning. Morning, you have your breakfast and you come out for a while and then go back, do a homework, have your food, and go to school. If you're a morning person, morning school, morning session, have your breakfast, go to school, come back from school, have your lunch, do your homework, come out at 4 p.m. and play until like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. until the mothers come out and shout for us. If it's school holidays, that's it. We are out there all the time. The daytime is our playtime. So that's how we spend our time. And I remember Mrs. Ponamalam. For Deepavali, she will invite all the children to come to her house to wash the house and also to help her make all the cookies. I remember I learned a lot of things by helping her, how they make the murukku, how they make the achi murukku, the rose flour murukkus, and so many dishes. And some of the dishes you can't find nowadays, these cookies that they used to make. Yeah, we have lots of things. And I think we are together because we played together. We also went through each parent, like my father died, Mr. Sundaram died, Mr. Veerappan died. So all this were while we were still growing up. So we are united in happiness and sadness. And also this group of my childhood friends are my comfort zone. I feel very comfortable with them. Yeah, so maybe pass baton to Alfred Das.
My father also worked like Viju's father and Mary's father in the Naval Base Hospital quarters. The hospital itself had 2 wards, a medical and a surgical ward, which Mary's father was in charge. Viju's father actually played a key role in the Naval Base Hospital in the sense that I think he was the union representative, apart from being in charge of the Naval Base Hospital dispensary. I believe he was also the union leader. And by being the union leader, he fought for quite a number of benefits for residents in the hospital. And talking about, would you first thank me for bringing my name, Bunny, to fame? Now, a lot of people are going to use that name. In fact, Pew has started doing it. So thanks, Viju. So, yeah, coming back to my dad was in charge of the Naval Base Hospital TB ward. The TB ward was located at Block 87 along Canberra Road, where the Women's and the Children's Hospital was also located. And I remember, since my dad was working in the hospital, we family members had to go for medical checkup every 6 months. Apart from being in charge of the Naval Base Hospital TB ward, he was also posted to the Dockyard Medical Center. There was like a clinic there near the boathouse to cater for workers working in the dockyard. So he also spent some time working there. One interesting thing about the hospital, although it was only a very small group of people, they were pretty active, I would say. And one of the highlights of the Naval Base Hospital was organizing the Dockyard Medical Badminton Party annually. That tournament actually, I think, was covered by the newspapers, which meant that it gave it some credence. It probably was one of the highlights in the sports calendar in Naval Base, perhaps even maybe in Singapore, because during that time, facilities were rare. Not many places could afford to have badminton courts. Apart from that, I also remember, I think this was Viju's father's doing. He also invited the then world badminton champion. I think India during that time was a powerhouse in badminton. And there was a player called Nandu Nateka, I remember. And he came actually to grace one of the events. Apart from that, also the hospital had its own cricket team. And it comprised of staff working in the Naval Base Hospital. My father was very active sportsman. He played both cricket and badminton. And the team participated in the local league, playing against other teams like the Singapore Recreation Club, the Singapore Cricket Club, Ceylon Sports Club, Indian associations. During that time, cricket, I think, was very popular. And it was a sport that was introduced by the British. Even companies also like Shell had their own cricket team. So, yeah, and as Mary mentioned, people there have a lot of sense of sharing and sense of bonding. And I remember my father, after the British pulled out, he stayed with a Chinese neighbor. We used to call the lady Aso. And my father treated her husband and cured him. I won't say he cured him. Anyway, he was cured from TB. And she was very, very grateful for it. And I remember when I used to go and visit my parents during the 80s, she would always, when I bring my kids, she would always make something and bring it to the children. It was a way of, I think, expressing her gratitude. She not only did it for my dad's children, but also for his grandchildren. And my mom actually didn't want to leave the JTC flat, primarily because of our neighbor. So that's just to give you a sense of bonding that the people had in Naval Base. And apart from that, also in living in Naval Base Hospital quarters, during that time, one of the biggest challenges for most families was putting food on the table. And well, a lot of us, ate actually a really half stomach. It was like once a week a meat curry, once a week a fish curry, once a week a vegetarian curry. And I still remember, when mom used to cook, she would cut the meat and tell us, "Hey, each of you are only 5 pieces of meat." Anyway, it's a diet that now people are advocating that we should go back go back to. Apart from that, also our neighbors were Hindus, so with respect to them, mom never cooked beef. So one of the meats that I grew up never having an acquired taste for is beef. So likewise, our Chinese neighbors on the outside would cook dishes and share with them. So there was a lot of sharing and bonding during that generation. And I also wish to add this bonding continued for many, many, many years. Like, for example, on Sunday, I attended Viju's sister's daughter's wedding. So, the bonds of childhood really continue to the next generation, which is something wonderful and something I don't see, I may be wrong, taking place today.
Alfred, I'm very interested in the TV ward, because I wrote a book on the history of TV in Singapore. So this was a ward where the patients were being treated.
Right. The patients, Kanasing, were isolated from the Naval Base Hospital, for what reasons. So they were all housed in, as I mentioned earlier, in Block 87. And I'm not sure, Kanasing, whether even the visitors were allowed to go and see them,
Yeah.
see visitors' family members. I'm not sure because when I passed the hospital on my way to school, primary school, I would see people, talking to, I suppose, family members across the road. Not across the road, I mean, outside the hospital. So I'm not sure whether they were allowed to go in and visit patients.
Do
It,
you, do you remember how many wards were there?
there was only one ward.
Yeah.
And if it was one ward, the Naval Base Hospital had 2 wards, a surgical and medical ward. And the Naval Base Hospital was a 74-bed hospital. So I would think there were about, at any one time, given the size of the Naval Base itself, say about between 20 to 30 patients.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think it's a good time now to actually look at the map and then have a better orientation of where the places were.
Yeah, this one I
Right.
think I think
Okay.
This is the one.
Okay, so the hospital is here. And where are the quarters? Where were the quarters?
Yes.
Just there,
Right at the
below
sort of
the.
Just below?
just below
Here?
the hospital. Yes,
Yeah. Yes, this one. Yeah.
there are two short rows,
Yeah.
And
on
one
either
long
side,
row.
and then a central separation.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, so where did you all live respectively? So you live in the long
Okay.
one or the short one?
Okay,
Archie
I
was on the
am
long one.
long
Archie and
one,
Alfred.
Okay.
number 11. You're pointing to that side. That's number 11.
Okay.
So the first of that row will be number 6. So you slide down to your right.
Mm.
This will be
To
number
your right.
1. Yeah, 6. Okay, correct.
Okay. 6 to 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
And then one.
So, yes. Viju would be 7. Viju
No, I
is
was 4. So
4.
actually,
4.
one would be Taipit's house.
Yes, type it.
Yeah. So
Is
on
that
the
one
left
here?
hand side,
The
yes.
first one?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
2 is Mr. Tang.
Where is 2?
Peter,
2
Peter,
is
Peter.
behind or the other side?
No.
Next to it.
Next to
Right
it.
next to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then 3 is Gomez house.
Gomez, yeah. And then
Go
4
slide.
would be
You got to slide to your right.
across the space there,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So
So
4,
that's
3,
VJ,
4,
right?
5.
4 is VJ.
Then 5 is Veerapan.
Yeah, correct. Then 6 would be Mr. Nathan. That two things are, what
The
are
two in the
those?
middle, they didn't exist,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be just blank.
yeah. There was a space where we used to run around and
Walk
play.
across,
Yeah.
correct.
So
So
there wasn't anything there. Oh, maybe this
no,
was earlier, you think, or later?
that we don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Alfred probably might know, but yeah, definitely. As Alfred was much older, so he knew a lot of more stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why. So he was sharing a lot of information about my dad, which I didn't know until I found out from him. Like for example, even the badminton. I discovered that his father was a very good badminton player. So was my father, and they actually played in the finals of the badminton championship. His father won. My father was second. And then my father later on became a badminton umpire. He went to the Singapore Badminton Association where he umpired some of the matches by Wong Peng Soon and things like that during the 50s. So when I was born, he had already given up badminton.
Yeah.
So
The
that was
sports, right? You mentioned earlier, Alfred, that there were many sports courts and places. Where were they?
see, it's not shown in the map. Huh?
Uh,
It's right on the left side after Archie's house, and
this area?
that area. Yes, there was a badminton court. There were a playground, swings, slides, and actually there was a big open field also. Yeah, there's a football field there. To next to the hospital, there was a football field. And then in front of our houses as well, there was
Also
another open
fields.
field as well. Yes. So not shown so
okay.
clearly here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Where
And then
was
across
the? Sorry, go ahead.
across there was also Adobe shop, where all the clothes were put out to dry. Yeah. So I think just on the left hand side, there was a big open area where some old dilapidated adobe house also was there. I remember my brother going into one of them, and one of the pieces of wood fell on his head and he had an injury.
Oh God.
So do you remember that he had stitches on his head? No? Yeah. So, and the
So-
badminton court is a place where we also did other things as well. We had kite flying, and kite flying we also had kite fighting. That's where we had to put glass onto the string. So I was helping my brother. I think Matthew, there's this Chinese boy, Matthew, who was very good at this. So he taught us a method where we ground the bulbs, and the old bulbs that were disposed from the hospital. We ground those bulbs because the glass was very thin and fine. And we made them into a powdery form, and then we mixed eggs in there to create a glue. So what we did was we tied the strings around the lamp. What's it? What do you call it? The lamps for the stadium or the court, and then we rub this glass mixed with egg onto the string. So the string becomes glass string. So which we use to do kite fighting. So the neighbors from the opposite blocks would come over to challenge us, and we would pull hard to cut off their string, and then their kites would be cut off and flown away. So we say layang anyot, and everybody will start running after the kite that has been cut and set free. And sometimes it will be quite dangerous because you run all the way to the road and almost get knocked down by cars.
That's right. The roads are just
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah, that's right. The Canberra Road was the highest traffic there. The other roads are a bit minor.
I'm just looking at the topo, right? So there's the hospital is on a slight hill, right? A small hill.
Yes, slightly higher, yes.
And then your quarters is also on a small hill. Is that right?
Yeah.
Slightly higher, slightly lower than the hospital area.
ground
Yeah.
level.
And the Canberra Road was the lowest area.
Right. Where was the TB ward?
That was further down, near just after Jalan
Block
Kadai.
Hospital.
We called it the Block Hospital.
Where,
so our
where?
school
Sorry,
was about 2 kilometers away.
Where on
further down to the left?
Left. To my left? To our left?
To our
To
left.
your left,
So it's not
Go
here.
further down
Is it?
there.
Yeah, see Jalan Kadai down.
Can you see Jalan Kadai?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Jalan Kadai is actually where all the shops were, the curry shops and whatnot. Yeah, we'll go there to buy food and bring back home. And then just for the 87, can you see an 87 there?
Yep.
Just at the bottom of the screen. 87.
So this was where
that's the block hospital.
the Sri
Yes.
Narayana mission later moved the nursing home to.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was a former TV ward.
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
And over there, if you look to the far left, there's Canberra Cinema.
Yeah.
That's where all the Tamil and Hindi movies were played. We would go on weekends to watch movies there.
Okay.
50 cents a ticket.
So actually the TV ward wasn't very far away from the quarters as well as from Jalan Kadai, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's funny.
So not much isolation, actually.
Yeah, correct. I asked you about this. Any of you remember these old Japanese quarters?
Okay, we were born very
Who
much
were
after that.
living there at the time? During your time, who were living there?
Alfred, you should know, was that quarters converted to housing and the Roberts were living there?
Yeah, correct. You're right. The Roberts were living there. There was another gentleman, I think, called Mr. Seelan, who migrated to England, and another family whose name I can't recall, because after the British withdrew in 1971, quite a number of families migrated to England. Some went back to India, but some went back to Pakistan. And then from Pakistan, things didn't work out for the family, and then they remigrated to England. Yeah. Coming back to the hospital, I just wanted to mention, saying that before the hospital quarters was converted into married quarters, it was actually accommodation for bachelors.
Mm.
And like my neighbor, Mr. Nath, he lived there. He was a bachelor. And then after he got married, he continued to stay there with his wife and brought up a family. And then further down, where his brother was living, his brother was also a bachelor. After he got married, he also lived there. And Archie mentioned about his wife, Mrs. Paramparam, who used to hold a lot of gatherings in our house. So it was a bachelor's quarters, like I would assume most blocks in the British initially catered for labor to build and set up the naval base. The other thing I wanted to mention to you about the hospital was that something unique about it was that it had a bell, a huge bell.
Yeah, I remember.
Bell, the attendants would ring it, signaling that it was time for people to leave. So that was very interesting. I understand the bell continued to remain there after the Thompson Road General Hospital took over, and it remained there till 1983. And the bell is very memorable to us, classic, because we heard it so often, and of course, also went there and rang the bell at odd times. So, part of our recreation. One of those things I thought I mentioned.
Okay, I have three quick questions, right? When you say converted, how were they converted? The bachelor quarters, did they get bigger? Did they get resized? Or
no, not at all.
The family just moved into the what used to be the bachelor quarters, lah.
You're right. They just got married, brought their brides there, and continued to live there.
Were they large enough, you think, for families?
That one is very interesting, actually. Because we had a small veranda and a small living room, and then a slightly large bedroom, but there was only one bedroom. So imagine the whole family sleeping in that one bedroom. Most of us slept on the floor, and then one bed for my parents. And if you want to go to the toilet, you have to climb in between your family members, not to step on them, to go out of the bedroom to go to the toilet. It was very cramped, actually. But we had a small sort of a courtyard downstairs. We were slightly lower down where the kitchen and the bathrooms were. And then also because it was made of wood and sanitation wasn't that great, it was filled with cockroaches and rats. We had pretty much a lot of rat infestation where we had to put mouse traps around, and then we'd hear snapping in the night, and we know that we have caught a few rats to get rid of. Almost every week we'd get rid of about 2 to 4 rats.
I think it was for us was quite good. You go up, it's built on stilts, you see. So you go up the stairs, you got a gate, and then you got a veranda, and then you got cheeks, those bamboo cheeks. Then you go into the house, you got 2 rooms on the side. One is for your living area, living room, and the other is a bedroom. We had windows, and then if you go, and there are 2 staircases going down. So when you go down on the other side, like you say, a courtyard and a kitchen area, and we had 2 bathrooms, one for bathing and one for the other business. So it wasn't 2 in 1, it was 2 separate bathrooms. And when my mom or my dad gets angry with us kids, my mom is, I think, the disciplinary. She'll come with a cane, and what we'll do is we'll run down the stairs and head for one of the bathrooms and lock ourselves inside until it's all calm. Then we will come out. So the nice thing is that we had a veranda where we put a dining table, and there was also a study table. And I had Alfred mentoring me on literature, and I had Pratip Raj, Viju's brother, teaching me maths. We help out each other. Whoever could help us, they will come and help us. And the living room was filled with furniture and radio, and then eventually a TV. And the bedroom, yes, it was a bit cramped, but we were all used to sleeping on beds or on the floor, mattress, no mattress, anything will do. And I remember during our stay in Naval Base, and even now in Singapore, the thunderstorms were very, very bad. And I remember the lightnings would strike. In fact, one of the people working with us, I don't know if you remember, Tommy was his name. He was struck twice by lightning while cycling to work, and he survived. So when these lightnings happen, my mom will gather us around. She'll be sitting on the chair, and I remember we kids all gathered around and sitting at the base of a foot, covered with a big white blanket. So like a mother hen. So that was one experience. Today I'll tell my children, and we will play my grandchildren now. I play with them this way. So it was very bad thunderstorms in those days. I don't know, Alfred, do you remember Tommy?
Oh yes, very, very much. We used to play soccer with us, right?
Yeah.
He recovered. He recovered pretty well, and then after that, he came and joined us for soccer. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I remember that. That was very memorable or very striking memory. And after that, we all were very scared of lightnings. Try not to be outside.
The Naval Base Hospital, was that for Asians?
Yes.
Okay.
But we had the Naval Base schools for the British and later on the Australians. I remember they used to bring the children for checkups. There were a lot of them because we live around them, so we used to see this British. I remember the Australian green uniform and yellow tops or white tops. They used to come for annual checkups. And another group that used to come was the Gurkha housewives. In Singapore, we also had the Gurkha contingent in Nee Soon. So I used to see this lady dressed up in white sari coming with a lot of Gurkha housewives. They will come for checkups too. They will bring them for checkups. So I don't know, maybe Alfred can remember, but this is what my memory is.
Interesting. There's also a medical center here. So
that center, Kaseng, was actually catering for all the Caucasians.
Okay.
Yeah, it was built much later, right?
Yes.
in the 60s, and yeah, we couldn't get use of that area. That was very nicely done, but yeah, we saw the housewives bringing their kids for treatment and so on there. Yeah, but I don't think we had didn't have any access to it.
I
Ah,
think no.
okay.
No. I think one of the things I felt as growing up was that there was a stark difference in how we Asians were treated in comparison to the British staff and the British personnel, because we lived in small cramped quarters while they had huge bungalows. Even the corporals and the sergeants and all had fantastically huge places. If you look across on the map, you'll see the police quarters, and further from the police quarters, there are some quarters for the British. And across at Lagos Circle area and all, they had huge bungalows. And each house would have had about an acre of land. I remember visiting one of them when I was playing with one of the Caucasian kids, and they brought me in, and I was amazed at how big their house was, how much land and space they had, and compared to just a single bedroom that we had,
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were not senior officers or anything. They were like corporals and sergeants, who had such good facilities for themselves. So
Do
that's
do the Caucasians use the Naval Base Hospital?
Yes.
They do.
they do.
Okay.
I don't remember. I only saw the staff there, but I don't remember their families coming to the hospital there.
Ah.
No, the families, I think they were treated at the other clinic, the medical center. You know, the civilian families medical center.
Yeah, this one,
further
right?
down, yeah.
Further,
Yeah.
okay.
They were treated there.
But what if they had to be hospitalized? Where would they go?
Um, good question. I would assume they would go to the British military hospital, which was
Ah,
located in Yishun.
in Yishun.
This is-
Okay.
There was a hospital
Ah.
there, British Medical Hospital,
Mm.
Yishun. You can't see it on this map.
Yeah, it's not here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the camp, I think.
Okay. Just
So they-
one quick question. Naval Base Hospital quarters. Any of these buildings still around?
No,
No, none.
Nothing. All
Nothing.
HDB flats there now.
HDB flats.
Yes, I went to
HDB
look at the
Okay.
location. There's an Endeavour Primary School, and all around it are HDB flats. There used to be an old folks home. There's Ming Huang Old Folks Home or something like that. That was also torn down, and now the entire area is based on HDB flats.
I think our hospital quarters house, now they are building the hospital, they're building either a condo or an EC. The last time when I went there, they were just
Wow.
building.
All right. Let's move on and look at. We have a nice photograph, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an aerial photograph.
It's quite remarkable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 1952, this photo
Yeah,
was
this is
taken.
way before I was born. Yeah.
The morgue is here, right?
Yeah, the morgue.
And 11 is where you live, lah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was our. I think there
Hey.
is something behind there.
Yeah, can you see the tall building right on the top of the screen? That's the X-ray building, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, we used to
What,
sneak up
this
there
one?
to.
What, which
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Yes, yes,
That's
that
a
one.
square. That one.
Yeah.
It's called the X-ray building.
It's got
so
stairs. You got to go up.
to
I
the
remember
top.
my mom used to be there too. So you can see our badminton court there, one of the courts.
On which side?
Yeah, next to
On
that X-ray
on your
building.
right.
Ah, oh, okay.
On your right,
Yeah.
in front
That's
of
the badminton court.
That was the old one. Then later they built a new one and gave us lots more playground things. Look at that. If you can see the yellow arrow, it's next to the rubber tree. There were two rubber trees.
Yeah, our favorite rubber trees. We used to go and take the sap and make it into round balls to play hantam bola also with.
Yes, yes.
And then the that bread seller, he will bring the kaya,
yes.
and he would come over there and he would press his that siren thing, and all of us would hear it and then all run over and
the
buy
horn, right? Pom pom horn.
the horn. That's right, the air horn. And
so if you see if you see on your left hand side that driveway or the road leading to the hospital,
Yeah.
whenever an ambulance brings patients, all the kids who are still around will be running along there to see what's happening. I remember that. Remember, we used to run along the ambulance so that we can see who is admitted or who is coming.
What is this building?
That's like a store, I think. Huh?
No, that was like a garage. Yeah.
For the ambulance.
Yeah, for the ambulances, other vehicles catering to the hospital. I think the Brits were pretty safety conscious in the sense they built the garage very close to the hospital, just in case if a vehicle, an ambulance breaks down, then it could be attended to immediately. So that's why they built that garage there.
So here are some of the photos of the staff, right, of the hospital that Mary sent.
Yeah, this one, I found it in my father's collection. My father is standing to your right, is standing far away from the rest. So I think Alfred does, your dad is also inside here. He is also there. For me, we don't have any confirmation of what is this. It just looks like during the Japanese occupation. I think they came and took over the hospital. So all those who were
Yeah, these are
working
Japanese,
there,
right?
yeah, continued working there for them. It was a bit dangerous because my mother told me a story that my father told her, that there was a Japanese officer who came with a piece of name on a piece of paper. Like he wrote a name on a piece of paper, gave it to my dad and said, "Do you know this man?" And the name there written on the paper was my dad's name. So he said, "No, I don't know." And then he left the place to save himself. So it was quite dangerous.
Yeah, I think looking at the picture, saying, I think, yes, I can recognize his father on the extreme right, and probably my father is on the extreme left. I'm just guessing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
as far as ladies are concerned, I think they were all Japanese models, hoping to look good. I don't think so. They look like local, our local women, and I don't think our local women would even want to pose with all these Japs. So sorry, I think there are some Japanese models.
Yeah, I mean the whites are not here because they will all be in prison.
Right? Yeah, probably.
And they want to pose with the Japanese during that time, So I don't think so. They are our local women.
Okay, this is 71.
Oh,
yeah.
When the British were pulling out, actually, right?
Yeah, I think this could be one of the last photos.
Where is this place? So this is
right in front
Naval
of the
Base
hospital.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yes, remember that circle that we saw earlier?
Yeah, I spoke about the ambulance arriving.
This was the circle area. My dad's in the front row.
Yes.
Right
seated.
on the right-hand side. The last person on the right-hand side is my dad. Yes.
Okay.
That's
And
my dad.
my mom is on the right-hand side, last person standing.
Last person in the white sari.
And yes, Alfred does. I think your father could be second row.
Yeah, correct.
Second
row, 2, 4, 6
1,
person.
2, yeah, you're right.
From the left, all right?
On the left.
Yeah.
And one thing one thing I wanted to point out, saying that to a certain extent, the hospital was quite overstaffed. I understand there were like about 100 people working in the hospital during the British time. And then when the Singapore government took over, I think the staff were reduced to 1/3. So as I think Pew also did mention, a lot of departments during that time and the naval base were overstaffed. I suppose the Brits also had a reason for it in the sense of security was the overriding concern during the time and not so much profit making. So maybe the hospital is also a reflection on. And then they also tended to have a lot of staff on standby. Something I think the local government curtailed when they took over. I think the hospital was operating only during office hours. I think so.
Yeah.
But anyway, he reduced the number of staff substantially.